Welcome into the newest episode of Side Mission. I, like always, am your host, Rusty Ellis, joined by just two of the boys today, Kyle and Thacker. No Matt, and I didn't almost say his name. I'm fucking happy about this. And today, oh boy, we're talking about a game that all of us were looking forward to, and unfortunately, this game, well, didn't exactly deliver on the hype that it created. So, Kyle, I remember in the first year of the podcast when we did an episode, and the ending of the episode, we talked about the reveal trailer for a game called Gotham Knights. And the trailer was fantastic. Looked like a lot of fun, looked like the story would be incredible. And it wasn't going to be any kind of continuation of the Arkham series, and it's not a continuation of the Arkham series. That's what the Suicide Squad game next year is going to be, hopefully. But it looked like a game that could be relatively interesting. Unfortunately, while the story is interesting, the rest of the game really fucking falters, and that's putting it mildly. So,
yeah,
let's just jump right in. In case you haven't seen it yet, the gameplay in this game is rough. It is really, really rough. Combat feels overly simplified. Controls, whether it's vehicle or gliders, doesn't feel smooth at all. It feels very, very strict. Kyle, I don't really know what quite went wrong with this game. I don't really know. I mean, we know that it had a rocky development cycle, but I don't know if that tells the whole story. I don't know what went wrong the worst in this game, to be quite honest.
honestly, this game, I think that with them promising co-op,
Yeah.
it was probably the most exciting part because playing the Arkham games, I think something that, everybody low-key kind of wanted was to be able to patrol Gotham City and take down bad guys with a friend, because who doesn't think that that would be fun? The idea on paper is great,
Outstanding,
but the
yes.
execution, unfortunately, with the 30 FPS frame rate, and that's when you're not riding vehicles or jumping around the city, that already set the precedent that this game was not going to be delivering us a next-gen experience.
30 FPS
And-
is generous when you put yourself in some of those
Yeah.
situations. 30 FPS is, you're lucky if you're getting that.
Yeah, it's... Honestly, I really expected more from this open world. I think that it's very barren compared to the previous open world Batman games we've gotten with Arkham. It doesn't make sense that a game that came out so long ago can, it's essentially the same kind of game. It does it better. It looks better. It plays better. And the driving, as much as everybody complained about the Batmobile, it was
Yes.
better. It was
Yes.
10 times better than the Bat Cycle is in this game. It feels slow. There is zero air control, so you have to commit to jumps. I, really wanted a faster way of traversing the city, and the gliders are pretty slow as well, and that's if you get a glider. I played as Jason, and he just gets this stupid jump that he does over and over.
That makes no
And,
sense to me either. Like, it's just weird. Robin
Yeah,
gets a
it was
teleport.
really
Like,
weird.
that's not a glide at all.
Yeah, I don't, and I don't know why you had to unlock the gliders too through all these different tasks. Like, why didn't they just give it to you from the beginning and have you unlock some kind of special ability or something? I don't know. Is weird that you also you can't customize the Bat Cycle. You can't upgrade it. Can't really do anything outside of the color.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I felt like the player customization got knocked out of the park. I really
was great.
enjoyed
I
getting to
agree.
customize different suits and, actually getting to see my gear. Where, this game got compared to Avengers a lot, and I think that is a poor comparison because this game
Agreed.
did so much better than Avengers. Doesn't make this a great game, but it definitely did things way better than Avengers, such as getting to see your gear that you're actually crafting for your characters and, not just applying it and having the suit that you choose take over whatever, your character's going to look like.
The one thing I really agree with what you said was Gotham feels barren, and in Arkham Knight, it was explained why it was like that because it was evacuated due to Scarecrow's threats. This game, there's literally no reason for Gotham City to be barren. There's no evacuation. There's nothing happening outside of Batman. Spoiler alert: if you didn't know this, Batman fucking dies at the start of this one. There is a spoiler alert because we are going to talk about the ending a little bit of this game because the ending is absolutely atrocious. But there's no reason for Gotham City to be as empty as it is. There's zero reason for it. Like, I remember when we did Saints Row, Matt called that world empty. I mean, Saints Row's world, by comparison, felt much more vibrant and alive than this game did. Now, this game, that's probably the only thing Saints Row has on this game. Saints Row was worse at probably just about everything else. But it really didn't. They didn't do themselves any favors in this game being open world when it doesn't really feel like it's a world that's lived in. It doesn't feel like that at all. Thacker, I feel like the development cycle absolutely contributed to this game's poor state, or this game's current state. I don't know if I can say poor because, I mean, we did just get done reviewing Scorn, and that game's pretty atrocious, but I think that when you look at the fact that the first red flag for this game was, okay, there's going to be co-op, but it's only 2-player co-op. They've since announced that there will be a 4-player mode added at some point in November, although I've got to be honest, I don't think the player base for this game is going to be that full. I don't think it's going to be, there's not going to be many people playing this game in November, in my opinion. The next red flag was this was made next-gen exclusive. The last-gen versions of it were abruptly canceled, and there wasn't much of an explanation for why. And the fact that this game runs as poorly as it does, it wasn't really much of a reason to cancel the last gen versions. I feel like we got the last gen versions, and they just slapped a big PS5 or Xbox Series sticker on it. And then the final nail in the coffin was, and this came out last week when the game launched, as of recording, and that was that the game on console was going to be locked at 30 FPS. I feel like all of the red flags were there, Thacker, and I feel like the development cycle ultimately is a major reason why this game does not succeed.
Honestly, I couldn't have said it best. You really hit the nail on the head there, man. This game is visually, I don't want to say atrocious.
It's very unappealing. Very unappealing.
Yeah, it's 30 FPS on a next-gen exclusive.
And to put that in perspective, we just got done talking about Plague Tale, which was locked at 30 FPS, but that game looks a million times better than this game did.
I didn't get a chance to play it with you guys, but watching you guys play that and realizing that's 30 FPS compared to this, I would be embarrassed to be part of that development team.
Yeah, it's not good. Now, that's not to say, and Thacker, I'm going to stay with you on this one. That's not to say that there's nothing about this game that isn't great in concept. I think 90% of this game is amazing in concept. It's just like Cyberpunk. I think Cyberpunk was an incredible concept. It's the execution that didn't work. The story's really interesting, despite all the flaws with the rest of the gameplay. The story's really interesting, and the fact that we're getting to play as 4 heroes that we've never really gotten a chance to play extended versions of, outside of some DLC in the Arkham games where you'd play like 30-minute missions. Yep. Hacker, there's a lot of potential here, and it just sucks that it was not realized.
Most definitely. This game has so much potential. They had pushed it back another minimum 2 months to work on more stuff. It would have been amazing. We always talk about how games need to be, whether or not they need to be pushed back or delayed. But this is a prime example of it. Saints Row was a prime example of it. If this game had gotten delayed even another 2 months, there could have been so much better stuff gone for it. Especially when you take in consideration the story is amazing. Even the side story stuff is amazing.
Yeah, I think that the story as a whole is really strong. It's a good narrative up until the very end.
Yeah, I really like
Exactly.
the story.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, it's just crazy to think that. And honestly, it upsets me the fact that with it being a next gen, there's not more for it. Not to say there's not good things for it though.
Yeah, I think that, there definitely were a lot of reviews that came out about this game that
IGN
felt
ought to be
out of
ashamed.
pocket.
IGN and
Yes.
GameSpot both ought to be embarrassed. Like, this game is not a 4. That's
Yeah,
bullshit.
a 4 and a 5
IGN out here rolling the dice for
after
them.
after Saints Row got what, a 7?
It got a 6 from them. It got a 6
Or a
from
6?
them. It got a 6 from
Yeah,
GameSpot. Saints Row got a 7. Oh, no, they got 6s from both of them. I'm wrong. So, yeah, they both
Yeah.
got 6s. I'm wrong.
To say that this game is worse than Saints Row is a joke, dude. Like, how do you think this game, that despite the frame rate issues, actually fucking works
Yes.
and has a good story despite the ending? I had so much more fun on this game in the co-op than I did in Saints Row on the co-op, and I really don't understand where people are coming out, with this lower than Saints Row score. Some of my biggest positives for this game definitely lie within the missions. I gotta say the story was really good, but the side missions, I think, with the other villains, as little as there may be, I thought that they were very entertaining. Mr. Freeze's was the best. He was my
I
favorite,
agree.
and his boss fight was insane.
Yes.
Agreed.
Definitely the best boss fight in the game.
There were a lot of reviews that said the bosses are just, like, damage sponges. And really, outside of Harley, I thought that the other boss fights were fine.
Yeah, I didn't mind Clayface's. I really liked Mr. Freeze's. Harley's was kind of eh.
Yeah, it wasn't
Um,
great.
Yeah, but yeah, this game had a good story, and while the controls are not great, at least it works. At least they work, and if I wanted to, I could platinum this game. Unlike Saints Row, that was literally so broken, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, let's platinum the game.
Oh, boy, I don't know about that. He could platinum. He didn't say he wanted to.
Yeah. This game I think is definitely it's not the best. It had potential though.
Yeah,
And unfortunately,
I think
fell
that's the
short.
most. I think that's the frustrating part, dude. Is that there's a lot of potential in a game like this, because honestly, I really liked most of the main characters in the game. I thought that Alfred was really well voice acted. The only of the four knights that you play as, 4 knights, quote unquote, Red Hood was really the only one whose voice actor I wasn't a huge fan of. I felt like his character was very one dimensional. But I felt like the voice actors and actresses behind Nightwing, Robin, and Batgirl, I thought they were all really solid. I didn't think... Now, they weren't Charlotte McBurney. Again, shout out to her, the voice actress that plays Amicia in Plague Tale. They weren't... It wasn't a performance like hers where I'm like, that might be the best performance of the year. But it's serviceable and it did the job. Like, you don't play a superhero game for great performances. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill in the Arkham games are massive exceptions to that. They are massive exceptions to that. Those two are legendary voice actors. But I also didn't really have much of a problem with the Court of Owls. I didn't have a problem with Talia al Ghul or the League of Shadows until, again, the ending, and I think we'll get to that in just a second. Didn't have a problem with really... The biggest issue I had with the villains, I didn't love Harley's voice. Like, I don't know. I just prefer how she sounds in the Arkham games. And that's kind of more of a, if it bothers you, it's going to bother you the entire time. And if it doesn't, you'll be fine. You'll probably think that it's whatever. I thought that the character designs were good. I thought that the main character models were fine and were good. NPCs and enemies were dreadfully bad. Like, very little detail, very little expression, very little emotion. And they're NPCs. They're not all that important. But it really kind of feels like a lot of effort was put in on the main characters. Detective Montoya was a quality side character. I liked her. I thought that their use of the Penguin as essentially a quest giver in this game, he's quote unquote turned a new leaf. Thought that was interesting. I did hate, however, how Lucius Fox was kind of just sidelined. I was not a fan of that.
Yeah.
I thought that Lucius Fox should have had a much bigger role in this game. And there will be people that say, well, in Arkham Knight, he didn't really have a huge role. I disagree. He constantly gave you upgrades. Whereas in this one, you only ever hear from him if you select his missions. So I think that as a whole, main characters were solid. There was just a couple qualms I had with some side characters and their usage.
I agree. The one thing that really kind of bothered me, being the comic book nerd I am, I felt like, and of course, spoilers, later on in the story, when we encounter Man-Bat, I feel like his entire...
Wasted.
Exactly. It was completely wasted. I hated how, instead of Man-Bat being his own villain, he took the back seat as just an experiment, mass-produced. And it's ridiculous to think that. Clayface loved his design. Mr. Freeze, amazing design. I agree with what you said. Harley's voice was kind of atrocious.
It was rough,
compared to the other Harleys we've ever gotten. Her design was, at least in her suit, was cool. I liked the different take on it. I wasn't the biggest fan. The Court of Owls, finally getting them involved, was amazing.
Can I just say this, that any reviews that got mad at the story and said that the Court of Owls, quote-unquote, were not in the story very much, I feel like a lot of those reviews came out after like the first 2 or 3 hours of gameplay, because I felt like they were in the game quite a bit.
They were in
they
the
really
game. For real. They were in the game more than the main villain was. They were in the game more than Talia.
Yep.
And that's crazy when reviews are saying they're not in the game that much. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that people saying that the Court of Owls weren't in the game that much, it's just weird when...
did you play the whole game?
Yeah, I see that. I mean, you run into them so much that they're even out on the street doing, participating in street crimes. They were well sprinkled throughout the story, as well as encounters with other people like Harley, like the Penguin. I think that, them kind of splitting it up and having, these different factions has always been a staple in the Batman games. And, maybe people were just thinking that the Court of Owls was going to come in and be like the main faction, and this was just going to be about them. But I never got that idea or that premise from any of the trailers we watched or anything we saw. But I thought that, they were in it plenty for them to be considered one of the main factions that you're fighting.
To be honest, I never thought, and maybe if you go back and watch the trailer and slow it down frame by frame, I'm wrong with what I'm about to say. I don't really feel like the trailer gave any kind of misleading information towards certain characters being included a certain amount of the game. I feel like the trailers were very, very fair in what they showed off. In fact, that reveal, one of the biggest villains that's shown for, that gets the most screen time in the trailer is Mr. Freeze. And because he's at the very end, he's one of the few villains that they actually show. They don't show the League of Shadows hardly at all. And the League of Shadows are a very, very important part of this game. So I think that people that are saying, they weren't in the game enough, I think those are people that wanted the Court of Owls to be front and center the entire time and didn't understand that that's not the game that was promised. The developers did not lie to us about that. For all the bad things that happened during development, they didn't lie, in my opinion, about that. They told the truth. They were very open about, who's going to be in the game, how much, and they didn't promise anything that they didn't deliver on outside of, obviously, performance and stuff like that we've talked about. I want to talk about the patrols because, I thought that was an interesting concept. The idea of patrolling Gotham, solving crimes, going out and doing crimes, and, finding clues to do premeditated crimes, which is how you get the glider for each character. I think that's a stupid-ass way to get the glider. By the way, want to just rant on this real quick. Someone explained to me why you have to earn Batgirl's glider. Because everyone knows what her glider is, right?
It's nothing more than her cape.
It's her fucking cape. that she has the entire fucking game. And you mean to tell me that she couldn't spread her fucking arms and glide? That is so stupid in my opinion.
The only glider that makes sense to earn
is Nightwings.
Is Nightwings and maybe Tim's.
Maybe. And that's a hard maybe.
Agreed. And that's only because of the simple fact of Tim, because of the whole satellite required to teleport bullshit. That is the only reason I would say it would make sense as a requirement. Nightwings, though?
Yeah. Nightwings is broken.
It's broken. As somebody who played as Nightwing the entirety of the game pretty much, Nightwing's glider is broken. You're able to change altitudes and get places a lot faster than you could on the Bat Cycle.
I agree.
And it's hymns. Yeah.
I think the patrols were like, again, an amazing concept. I think that in execution, it didn't go quite as well as it could have. I think that it does get I hate going down this line of criticism because I hate it when I hear it as a crutch for other reviewers. It doesn't feel like, it feels like you're more or less kind of just doing the same stuff over and over again. It has that repetitive feel to it. And there's nothing that really makes any of them stand out outside of like maybe the organ trafficking crimes. Like maybe those are a little bit different than what you normally have to do. But even then, I mean, I don't think that there's enough variety there to keep someone wanting to do the crimes. And the only motivation at that point is just if you're trying to get someone's glider. I mean, that's pretty much all there is. I think outside of like the side villains, side content in this game is really lacking. And that's a problem. Because in an open world game, if you're not going to have content, your open world suffers more than it already is from being empty and barren. Your open world suffers even more when there's not good side quests. And the fact that they sidelined essentially Penguin and Lucius Fox to be quest givers that are immobile, I don't like that. That's disrespecting of the source material and disrespecting of the characters. Those are two important characters in Batman lore. I have no fucking clue why they were relegated to bench roles like that. Almost like in Halloween Ends, how fucking Michael Myers isn't in fucking 30% of the movie. Like,
yep.
Why you don't watch a Halloween movie for anything other than Michael Myers and for chaos? So it's the same thing here. You play Batman games for the villains because the villains are some of the best part of Batman. Why did you sideline one of the biggest ones? So we've talked about the Bat Cycle and how it controls atrociously. People that complained about the Batmobile, I hope you're fucking happy because this is what we got instead.
Yep.
This is what Arkham Knight could have been. I better see reviewers change those fucking 6s and 7s they gave Arkham Knight. I better see 8s and 9s from those because y'all bitched and moaned about the fucking Batmobile. And it looks amazing compared to what is in this game. The Bat Cycle is atrocious. It's slow. And you know what? Matt will hate this when he hears this whenever he listens to the episode. I'm going to compare something about the driving in this game to No More Heroes 3. In that game, when you crash into a car, nothing happens. You bump and you change directions. That's exactly what happens in this game. You would think that it would cause a wreck or a crash, or at least like there'd be something that happens when it goes when you hit another car. Nothing happens. And that's fucking lazy in my opinion. They literally cheaped out on the animations, and I just wanted to get that in real quick. So let's talk about the ending. Because that's the biggest flaw in this game right now. That is the biggest flaw is this game's fucking ending. And if it sounds like I'm cursing a lot, I am sorry. But this game's ending is so bad and it was so predictable that Thacker, you called it in like chapter 3 that this was going to happen. So you chase down Talia al Ghul after the leader of the Court of Owls. I'll keep their identity a secret. You chase her down to where you find that she has created a gigantic Lazarus pit in just the tunnels under Gotham City. And this is after you've stopped the man-bats that she's controlling that are wreaking havoc across the city. And yeah, it was under the Batcave too. That's the other thing, is that it's under like the destroyed Batcave because Batman blew it up in the beginning. It's where he died. There's no words for how stupid this is. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I really can't. Rather than just fight Talia al Ghul straight up, they first make you fight a different enemy. For those who don't know how the Lazarus Pit works in Batman, you stick someone's body in it that is dead, and it resurrects them. That's a really simplified way of saying what it does. There's a deeper explanation, but I'm not even going to touch that right now.
I don't want to.
So who does Talia choose to resurrect? Is it Ra's al Ghul, who was killed in the beginning of the game? No. Is it Joker, who appears to be dead in this universe? No. She resurrects fucking Bruce Wayne. And in doing that, this game committed the cardinal sin that I didn't want it to commit, and that's that I wanted no trace of Batman on this game. I wanted the stories of Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Robin to be told. And instead, the writers committed the cardinal sin and had Batman hijack it at the very end. But Kyle, not only did they resurrect him, they kill him again. They kill him again in the ending. I think this ending is one of the worst endings we're going to get in the game for a very long time. I'm going to let you two fucking talk because I'm angry.
Yeah, I definitely thought that was a bad move, them bringing Bruce Wayne back from the dead just to have you fight him.
And then they kill him again for no reason.
No reason.
It was
at all.
so stupid for them to bring him back for 5 minutes because I thought, oh, okay, well, kind of weird that he's back, but now it'll, maybe it'll change up the gameplay. Maybe Batman will give us quests or, it'll have us, and he's dead. Again. So dumb that they had him come back. You fought him for one boss fight, and then he just sacrificed himself again to get rid of the Lazarus Pit. And you really couldn't have brought in some crazy big cameo of a dead character like anybody else. They really had to bring in Bruce Wayne and make you fight him just to kill him in the last scene. And then they had the whole here's what else I thought was really fucking stupid. The whole fake out death where Talia stabbed him. I was like, oh shit, he's dead. And then he somehow made it up to the Batwing and got in it, and he was like, I'm not dead, but I will be in 5 minutes. It was so dumb. He just fucking literally blew up the Batwing and killed himself. You couldn't have found some other way to destroy. Maybe we could have planted some bombs and blown it up and taken you to a hospital, Bruce. Did you need to die? It didn't make sense.
It's stupid. Especially because, as I don't know for you guys, but as Nightwing, literally, he holds Bruce back from fighting Talia, and goes, "If you die again, Alfred's gonna kill me." What the hell? Why even go through that and die again?
It's so stupid.
I thought it would have been cool for that final fight with Talia, even though Bruce was injured. It would have been a cool moment to have. I think I would have been more okay if they did it this way instead of Bruce dying that way. If you got to fight side by side at the end with Bruce against Talia, and
I would have liked it a lot
again
more
that
than
way.
what we got.
If he had died that way instead of just blowing up the Batwing to keep the Court of Owls from getting the Lazarus Pit, from keeping Talia from having the Lazarus Pit, I would have liked it a lot more. But it was a dumbass fucking decision. And I don't ever want to have to see that ending again. If Kyle, if we do decide to platinum this, I'm not going to play the ending again because that's atrocious.
Skip the cutscene.
Not even skip the cutscene. I'm not even going to that area. The second I get to that point, it's all right, game over. I don't have the platinum. Oh well.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think that there's a lot in this game that didn't work. I think that it's really disappointing because there's so many concepts that in theory would have made for an awesome game, and there is just nothing. There's very few positives that I can say besides the story and some of the performances and the designs that I just feel like this game was wasted potential, and I feel like that is partly from laziness, and we look at like the game physics, we look at the gameplay and how overly simplified it was. We could have, it could be part about the development cycle. There's so many things that went wrong for this game and remember, I said this a few episodes ago in our scoring episode, that I thought this game would end up making the worst games of the year list, and I don't think I'm wrong about that. I think it very much will be on that list.
Yeah.
I will say, a 4 and a 5, exaggerating. That is exaggerating to holy hell. The game functions and works. It is not that bad. Now, as far as the score, I'll give it. I'm going to sit 6.5. And that's a cop-out. That may seem like a cop-out because I gave Saints Row a 6. To be honest, I almost want to drop Saints Row to a 5 because of the bullshit they've been doing before. I will say this, and this is probably an unpopular opinion. I'm looking around to make sure nobody from IGN or GameSpot hears what I'm about to say. Making sure nobody from the Court of Owls hears what I'm about to say. I could make a compelling argument that this game is closer to a 7 than it is a 5. I could give you a very compelling argument. It is much closer to a 7 than it is a 5. Whereas I think IGN's like at my door. They're about to beat down my door and come take me out because I said that. These are the same people, by the way. Just spoiler alert, because you're gonna hear this on another episode from us, another disagreeing. The nerve of them to give the fucking Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 campaign a 6. The nerve, because that campaign was fantastic. So IGN can eat a fat one for all I care. On that note, I think it's a great place to stop before we go any further. I don't know. I feel like we go further, we're going to start saying things that can get us canceled. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to end it right there. That's going to wrap up this episode of Side Mission. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Side Mission Pod. We're on Facebook and on TikTok at Side Mission Podcast. Thacker is hopefully going to have some funny, if not cancelable clips from Gotham Knights that we'll probably be seeing relatively quickly. But that's going to wrap us up here. We're done with this game. We're done with Gotham Shites. Not playing this game again for a while. It's already uninstalled on my PS5, I'm not going to lie. But for the boys, for Kyle, for Thacker, for Matt's non-existent ass, I'm Rusty Ellis. Thanks for listening.